I'd like to welcome you to the White House, sir.
There's been an intrusion.
Let's go, move.
Give me the Pentagon on the line now.
Olympus has fallen. Olympus has fallen.
Mr. Speaker, you are the acting president.
I want to speak for the Russians, the Chinese, the British, and the French.
Olympus Has Fallen arrived as a throwback-style action thriller that deliberately embraces the intensity and straightforward urgency of classic siege films, placing the audience directly inside a crisis that unfolds at the very heart of American power. From its opening moments, the film establishes a tone of controlled seriousness mixed with explosive action, grounding its story in personal failure, national vulnerability, and relentless forward momentum. The narrative centers on Mike Banning, a seasoned Secret Service agent whose identity is shaped by loyalty, discipline, and an unshakable sense of responsibility. Early on, the story presents him not as an invincible hero, but as a man carrying the weight of a devastating mistake, one that costs him his position protecting the president and leaves him reassigned to a desk job. This emotional foundation is crucial because when the White House itself becomes the target of a catastrophic attack, Banning's redemption is not framed as a choice, but as an inevitability driven by who he is at his core. The attack on the White House is staged with an almost shocking directness, transforming an iconic symbol of stability into a battlefield within minutes. The film wastes no time escalating the threat, depicting a coordinated assault led by a North Korean-aligned terrorist group that combines aerial strikes, ground forces, and insider knowledge to overwhelm America's most secure location. The spectacle is designed to feel invasive and unsettling, deliberately confronting the audience with the idea that no place is untouchable. As defenses fail and communication collapses, the film narrows its focus, shifting from large-scale destruction to claustrophobic survival. This transition is key to the movie's rhythm, as it moves from national crisis to intimate, corridor-by-corridor combat inside the White House itself. Mike Banning's re-entry into the conflict happens almost organically, placing him in the wrong place at exactly the right time. Cut off from command, isolated from allies, and armed only with his training and instincts, he becomes the last line of defense from within. The film emphasizes his familiarity with the White House layout, security procedures, and weaknesses, turning institutional knowledge into a weapon. Unlike many modern action films that rely heavily on technology or overwhelming firepower, Olympus Has Fallen repeatedly returns to physicality and tactical realism. Gunfights are brutal and close quarters, movement is deliberate, and survival often depends on patience rather than bravado. This approach reinforces the idea that Banning's effectiveness comes from experience rather than superhuman ability. At the center of the crisis is the president, taken hostage and used as leverage in a broader geopolitical demand. The terrorists are not portrayed as random chaos agents, but as ideologically driven extremists seeking revenge and recognition on a global stage. Their plan is structured, ruthless, and symbolic, designed to humiliate the United States as much as it is to inflict damage. The film carefully balances this ideological framing without turning the narrative into a political lecture, keeping the focus on immediate stakes rather than abstract commentary. The threat feels personal because the consequences are immediate, lives are at risk, and decisions must be made under impossible pressure. Inside the White House, the dynamic between captors and captives adds a layer of psychological tension. The president is written not as a passive victim, but as a leader forced to navigate fear, responsibility, and moral compromise. His interactions with the terrorists highlight themes of dignity and resistance, even when power is stripped away. Meanwhile, outside the White House, government officials struggle to respond to the unprecedented situation, illustrating how even the most powerful institutions can be paralyzed by surprise and uncertainty. This dual perspective, inside and outside the building, reinforces the sense of isolation felt by those trapped within. Mike Banning's journey through the White House becomes the spine of the film's narrative. Each encounter strips away another layer of the terrorist's control, while also forcing Banning to confront the guilt that has haunted him since his reassignment. His actions are not framed as heroic posturing, but as necessary, often desperate measures to slow the inevitable. The film allows moments of quiet between bursts of violence, using silence and shadow to build suspense. These pauses are where the character work breathes, reminding the audience that this is as much about personal redemption as it is about national security. The film's pacing is relentless but controlled, rarely allowing the tension to dissipate. Every success is temporary, every victory incomplete. As Banning moves closer to the core of the terrorist operation, the stakes escalate not through spectacle alone, but through the gradual revelation of the attacker's endgame. The threat evolves from a hostage situation into something far more catastrophic, raising the possibility of mass destruction on a scale that would redefine global politics. This escalation keeps the narrative from becoming repetitive, ensuring that the audience remains invested beyond the immediate firefights. One of the defining qualities of Olympus Has Fallen is its tonal confidence. It does not attempt to subvert or deconstruct the action genre. Instead, it embraces its conventions with seriousness and conviction. Patriotism is present, but it is framed through sacrifice and duty rather than empty slogans. The film acknowledges vulnerability without diminishing strength, suggesting that resilience comes from individuals willing to act when systems fail. This balance allows the story to feel grounded despite its heightened premise. The supporting characters serve clear narrative functions without distracting from the central conflict. Military leaders, intelligence officials, and advisors represent different approaches to crisis management, often clashing over strategy and ethics. These debates add texture to the story, emphasizing that there are no easy solutions when lives are on the line. The terrorists themselves are depicted with a cold efficiency that makes them formidable adversaries, avoiding caricature while still clearly positioning them as antagonists. As the film moves toward its climax, the sense of time pressure intensifies. Banning's actions become increasingly risky, pushing him to physical and emotional limits. The White House, once a symbol of order, becomes a maze of danger where every room could be fatal. The film uses its setting effectively, transforming familiar spaces into unfamiliar threats and reinforcing the idea that security is fragile. The final confrontations are staged to emphasize consequence, making it clear that survival comes at a cost. The resolution of the crisis brings the narrative full circle, tying national salvation to personal redemption. Banning's arc concludes not with triumphalism, but with a quiet acknowledgement of loss, responsibility, and earned redemption. The film resists the temptation to end on spectacle alone, allowing its emotional threads to resolve alongside its action beats. This restraint strengthens the overall impact, leaving the audience with a sense of closure rather than exhaustion. In the broader landscape of action cinema, Olympus Has Fallen stands out for its commitment to intensity and simplicity. It does not rely on excessive subplots or tonal shifts, instead focusing on a single escalating crisis and the individuals caught within it. The film's success lies in its clarity of purpose, delivering a tightly constructed narrative that respects its audience's desire for both excitement and emotional investment. By grounding its action in character and consequence, it transforms a familiar premise into a compelling, high-stakes experience. Ultimately, Olympus Has Fallen is a film about responsibility under pressure, about what happens when symbols fall and individuals must rise. Its portrayal of the White House under siege is not just an exercise in spectacle, but a catalyst for examining duty, redemption, and resilience. Through relentless pacing, grounded action, and a focused narrative, the film delivers a cinematic experience that feels both immediate and enduring, inviting viewers to reflect on vulnerability, courage, and the cost of protection long after the final moment fades to black.